Hi there, Rachelle Vaughn here. Last month I offered some birding tips to keep in mind while you start the wonderful adventure that is birding. I'll put a link to that video in the description. Because this hobby is the ultimate learning experience, I thought of a few more bits of advice that might help. Number 1. Don't make assumptions. Even if you think a bird is just a blackbird, zoom in and double check to make sure. I'll give you a few examples of when I was guilty of this and almost missed a great sighting. When we first saw a phainopepla, I thought it was just a blackbird in the distance. Then we saw white on the wings when it flew away and heard another one make a sound we'd never heard before. Luckily, there were several in the trees fluttering from one branch to another so I could get a closer look. Example number 2. My first American kestrel sighting. I thought it was a sparrow perched in the top of a tree. Nope, it was an American kestrel, North America's smallest falcon. I had no idea a bird of prey could be that small. Another example is when we saw a western meadowlark on a telephone wire. Again, we thought it was just a blackbird when we looked up. We'd never seen a meadowlark on a phone line before and had only ever seen them on the ground and occasionally in trees. Birds will continue to surprise you no matter how long you've been watching them. That's one of the things that makes birding so fun. So be sure to check closely, otherwise you might miss a great and/or rare sighting. Number 2. Keep track of your sightings. In a journal, a blog, a birding app, etc. On a really good day at the wildlife refuge, you might see dozens of different species in the span of only an hour or two, and remembering everything you saw can get overwhelming. And, for future reference, label the folders of photos on your computer by date and location so you can easily refer back to when and where you saw a bird. Number 3. I found it helpful to switch from binoculars to a camera. Instead of taking the precious time to focus and find a bird through binoculars and try to remember identifying details, now I simply use my camera, snap a few photos, and that way I can identify it later on the app if needed. That's the great thing about digital cameras. The photos are free and you can take as many as you want. There will be plenty of blurry, non-Instagram worthy shots, but no one has to see those. Leave a comment if you remember the days of having to wait for your expensive film to be developed. Number 4. Go on your birding trips whenever you can at all different times of day. Most people recommend spotting birds in the early morning and late evening, but we've managed to see them at all times. Find what works best for you and switch it up occasionally for a change of scenery and lighting. Cloudy days are even better than bright sunshiny ones, so you don't get that harsh glare from the sun. Number 5. If you find yourself having trouble identifying a bird you spotted, keep in mind that it could be a juvenile. Some species of birds start out looking nothing like the end product. Take, for instance, the black-crowned night heron. Even though their body shape is similar, their markings make them look like completely different species. You might wish the bird to be a different species, just so you can add a new bird to your life list, but sometimes it's just a youngster growing into his own. Take comfort in knowing that birds go through that awkward adolescent stage just like humans. For example, it takes bald eagles a few years to grow into their regal plumage. So if you can't ID a particular bird, consider that it might just be a teenage version of one you already know and love. Get yourself a good field guide and familiarize yourself with the birds in your area and what they look like when they're immature and adult. Alright, that's it for today. I hope you can take something away from these tips and get the most out of your birding adventures. Happy birding!